Some are familiar with the many steps in the recovery process, but some aren't. And that's why there is such an information campaign being mounted. So we ask that people that are going through the arduous and potentially dangerous process for the first time to familiarize themselves with all the steps necessary to ensure your safety and the safety of your family. From contacting your insurance agent, which is key, to filing a report for disaster financial assistance, equally as important, to knowing what household items can be cleaned and kept. There's a lot to learn. The provincial government has created a new web page to answer many of these questions. And this is important because it really consolidates a lot of the information that people are looking for. So the URL for that is www.gnb.ca, Flood Recovery 2018. And we certainly commend people to go to that website for the information they need. Now, neighbors and friends can be equally valuable resources, and we know that from during the response where people really stepped up and helped one another. People who are familiar with this struggle from previous experience can help. They can help with advice and guidance, and certainly for encouragement throughout the recovery process. New Brunswickers and communities have shown a lot of courage and resilience in the face of what was truly unprecedented flooding. And the importance of these traits will be just as necessary during the recovery phase. Simply because the obvious signs of flooding are starting to fade, that doesn't mean life has returned to normal, far from it. For many people, it'll take some time. The days and the weeks and the months to come, it'll be a struggle for a lot of people, and they'll need support in many forms. And no one will be forgotten, even though the river level isn't as high as has been recently experienced. So we want people to check on their neighbors, of course, their friends and their family during this time. And their homes may not be flooded, but that doesn't mean they don't need some help or they don't need some encouragement to get through some trying times. Courage and resiliency has brought people through the worst phase of this operation, and it'll be the same courage and resiliency that will get people through the recovery phase. Now, operationally, today, as you no doubt can appreciate, things are looking up. Roads are opening as we speak. Things are starting to create, or at least have the appearance of some return to normalcy. But we're in transition. There are still roads that need to be guarded and barricaded until they're safe. Lots of inspections have to take place. Water's still high in some locations. Boats are still available, in some cases doing administrative work, but in many cases also providing that local liaison and ability for inspectors and other important folks to get about and do their work. And they're providing a presence on the watercourses to ensure safety and to ensure security. That will be the status until all the water is below flood stage in all the locations. And you'll see that progress throughout the weekend as the water does continue to recede. So the impact phase is over, but after every impact and all the requisite response, the recovery phase has to come next. And that is, of course, characterized by cleanup and things opening up and becoming accessible and work getting accomplished. And that work will involve hundreds of people, if not thousands, and it will be done methodically so that we can return our society back to its normal way of life. Thank you very much, and I'll pass to the next speaker.
Thank you, Greg. I would like to welcome Dr. Russell, Jennifer Russell, who is the Chief Medical Officer for Health. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon, bon après-midi. My name is Dr. Jennifer Russell, Chief Medical Officer of Health for New Brunswick. I'm here this afternoon to provide a health update for our residents affected by flooding. Before I begin, I would just like to thank the New Brunswick Emergency Measures Organization and the numerous emergency officials at the local level who are helping to pass along these important messages. After a flood, it is important to restore your home to good order as soon as possible to protect your health. It is important to have a step-by-step action plan to remove all water, mud, and other debris. You will also need to dispose of contaminated items and thoroughly clean any contamination inside the home. Immediate action is important as your house and furnishings are less likely to grow mold if contents are dried within 48 hours of water receding. For personal protection, avoid skin contact with contaminated material. During cleanup, be sure to wear personal protective equipment such as gloves, a mask, and goggles to protect your eyes, nose, mouth, and skin, and wash your hands frequently with clean, warm water and soap. To avoid the health hazards of mold and mildew, water-soaked walls and insulation should be removed and the space instead dried thoroughly. Walls constructed of gyprock, plaster, or wood will dry out in time, but insulation in these walls is no longer effective. We recommend you discard anything that was wet with the floodwater and can't be cleaned or dried within 24 to 48 hours. To avoid the health hazards of food contamination, all perishable goods, vacuum-packed foods, and any other foods affected by flooding should be thrown out. Cooking and eating utensils should be cleaned of all deposits, washed with household detergent or soap, and rinsed for at least 2 full minutes in a mixture containing 15 milliliters, 1 tablespoon of liquid bleach in 4.5 liters, 1 gallon of water. Utensils used for infant feeding should be boiled before use. It is important to use a good soap or detergent and lots of hot water when cleaning. In order to prevent toxic fumes, do not mix cleaning products together, especially bleach and ammonia. Walls, solid floors, and ceilings should be thoroughly scrubbed with a good detergent or soap or water. Solid wood or metal furniture can be cleaned with a household detergent solution by wiping clean and then wiping dry. Upholstered furniture and mattresses affected by flooding should not be used. After cleaning, open doors and windows to air thoroughly and help the drying process. I also, again, want to remind residents about private wells. If your well is currently underwater, do not use your well water. If your well water has a persistent odor or discoloration, even after letting the water run, or if you suspect that your well may be affected by chemicals such as furnace oil, gasoline, or agricultural chemicals, do not use your water for any purpose whatsoever, even if it has been boiled. Contact the regional office of the Department of Environment and Local Government. Once the water recedes from your well and you do not suspect chemical contamination, ensure you bring your water to a roiling boil for at least 1 minute prior to drinking, making juices, ice cubes, washing fruits and vegetables, cooking, or dental hygiene. Continue to boil your water until your well has been disinfected and then tested for harmful bacteria. You should wait at least 10 days after the water has receded before disinfecting your well. If you are formula feeding your baby, use safe tap water or bottled water and bring water to a boil for 2 minutes, but not longer, and let it cool. If you cannot boil your water, use single-serve ready-to-feed formula. If you do not have power or safe water, please use single-serve ready-to-feed formula. Breastfeeding continues to be the safest way to feed your infant. Lastly, I want to make everyone aware that this document is available. So what I have right here. As Greg referred to earlier, on the website, so flood recovery from your home or business. So this is available online and it has a lot of the information that you need to know about flood recovery. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, Dr. Rossard. Ryan Donnelly, s'il vous plaît, du ministère de l'Environnement et des gouvernements locaux.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm going to touch on water testing of private wells as well, and I'm going to reiterate a couple messages from yesterday and expand. J'aimerais clarifier quelques messages en ce qui a trait aux tests pour l'eau des puits privés qui ont été touchés par les récentes inondations. We're seeing tests already coming forward, and nowhere in the province has been out of the flood waters for 10 days. So we remind certainly that there is a process that must be followed to ensure that these tests are going to be effective. Alors, le gouvernement provincial effectue gratuitement des tests pour l'eau des puits privés qui ont été directement touchés par les récentes inondations. Des trousses d'analyse de l'eau des puits seront disponibles gratuitement et prêtes à être ramassées dans les établissements de services Nouveau-Brunswick à compter du 17 mai. On rappelle aux Néo-Brunswickois qu'ils doivent attendre 10 jours après que l'eau soit retirée de la zone du puits avant de commencer le processus de chloration et d'échantillonnage. So free well water kits will be ready to be picked up at Service New Brunswick locations starting on May 17th. and New Brunswickers are reminded to wait 10 days after the water has receded from the well area before beginning the chlorination and sampling process. It's important to allow the well to return to normal pre-flood conditions before chlorinating and testing. I'm again highlighting this because we are hearing some anecdotal stories of people bringing water samples even with the water receding in the last few days. Je vais vous parler brièvement du nettoyage des débris laissés par les inondations ainsi que les sacs de sable encore une fois. I'd also reiterate the message that has been shared widely, but the debris should not be burned. This could pose significant health and environmental concerns. On est en train d'organiser des collectes de déchets spéciales dans les districts de services locaux et les détails seront communiqués aux résidents au cours des prochains jours. Special pickups are being arranged for local service districts, and residents will be advised of the details in the coming days. For those living in municipalities, information regarding flood debris collection will be communicated directly through their municipality. Some have started this already. For the local service districts, I want to start to set expectations as some municipalities have started communicating, and some have even started the cleanup. We are working out the details right now. The reason we're holding back only slightly is to let property owners start the cleanup. These are large territories, and we recognize that some of the properties are recreational in nature and may not get to it on day one after the waters have receded. In the greater Fredericton area, for example, not the city, I don't anticipate debris pickups to start before the 21st of this month at the earliest. Details are going to be communicated soon via media and social media. As we go downriver, those dates will continue to extend. The special pickups are going to focus on items and debris from the flood, and we are going to continue working with our solid waste contractors to make sure that regular pickups continue as long as the roads are suitable to take the equipment. On rappelle aux gens qu'ils devraient empiler séparément les débris laissés par les inondations. For people who would like to dispose of their debris on their own, they can bring them to the Regional Service Commission landfills and the Sussex Transfer Station at no charge. We continue to get questions around sandbags that have been utilized as part of the flood preparation. I will reiterate that the only way to ensure the sandbag is disposed of properly is to send it to the Regional Service Commission landfills. La seule façon de s'assurer que les sacs de sable sont éliminés correctement est de les envoyer aux commissions de services régionaux. I would remind folks not to dump the sandbags in or near a watercourse or regulated wetland. If somebody wanted to do so, they would require a watercourse and wetland alteration permit from the Department of Environment Local Government. I do also want to advise people to contact one of the Department of Environment regional offices for more information if the sandbags are clearly contaminated by oil or gas. These likely need to be disposed of in a different manner by an appropriate remedial company. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I will now welcome Ali Murchison from the Red Cross, and she has something to show us today. Since we talk about recovery and cleaning, she has a magic box with her today, so I think it's good there, Ali.
For sure. Thank you. Just to clarify right now, we have 705 households who have registered with the Red Cross, and that is a total of 1,620 people. We do continue to urge people to register with us. So the number is 1-800-863-6582. And of course, this is what I'm here to talk about, is our cleanup kits. We have them available at our Fredericton office at 318 Maple Street, as well as our St. John office at 120 McDonald Street, and that is in the Loch Lomond Mall. Also available on Monday, we will have these cleanup kits available in our Sussex office, in Chipman, the shelter available there, Service New Brunswick in Burton, Service New Brunswick in Hampton, as well as Service in New Brunswick in Fredericton. And that is with coordination with MBEMO's recovery team, so we really appreciate that. So inside our cleanup kits, we have brooms and mops. And associated with each of them, we do have extendable and retractable handles. We have sponges available as well, squeegees for your basement when you have water laying around there. As well as Dr. Russell did mention protection gear, so we do have gloves to protect you as well as masks. For your debris and your garbage, we have garbage bags located inside the container, as well as some more gloves for outside debris cleanup. We have a couple more scrub brushes and more handles that can be attached to these devices, as well as an all-purpose cleaner. I will leave these up here, so after this conference you can come and take a look at them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Merci beaucoup. Anything else to add? No? Thank you. I will now ask Ahmed Dasuki from DTI to say a few words for us. Merci, Ahmed.
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you all. DTI is now actively engaged in the recovery process of this event. This was an easy transition as our teams were planning the recovery simultaneous to the response. Several roads have reopened in the last 24 hours, among them the Fredericton to Moncton Highway. DTI worked with our P3 partner MRDC to reopen this vital link as quickly and as safely as possible. As of late this morning, there will be one lane of traffic open each direction between kilometer markers 330 and 339. The speed limit in this area will be 70 kilometers an hour. We urge motorists to drive with caution in this area as crews will be performing cleanup work and any necessary repairs. Some of the ramps will remain closed until floodwaters reduce further. I know many of you were on the highway yesterday to see firsthand the amount of debris that had been cleaned up. I think we can all appreciate the work done by MRDC to reopen the highway as quickly as possible. I must also mention the excellent cooperation that DTI received from neighboring jurisdictions, Nova Scotia, Quebec, PI, Maine, in helping directing the traffic through our entry points. I can also report that the Grand Bay Westfield Ferry is back up and running as of 12:45 p.m. In the days ahead, our focus will remain on the restoration of transportation links in a safe and timely manner. We currently have technical teams deployed in the field to assess transportation infrastructure as water recedes so we can reopen roads and bridges as soon as we can. We will be using all available staff resources in the restoration effort, including bringing in casual workers earlier than usual where required. We are also ready to move staff from divisions that weren't impacted by the flood into areas that have been hit hard. We are also reaching out to private contractors to help out in an as-needed basis. We've reached out to other jurisdictions and have been in contact with our federal counterparts who assure us they are ready to mobilize if required, if needed. The Canadian Armed Forces have also made themselves available to our recovery effort. We've engaged a consulting firm to assist in the restoration management to ensure we are in compliance with disaster assistance funding criteria so we can recoup the cost as quickly as possible. We want to remind motorists and pedestrians to continue to respect barricades on closed roads. If there is a barricade in place, the road is still closed. Even if the water has receded, we need to inspect those roads and ensure that they are safe for traffic. We thank the public for their continued patience and cooperation as we respond to this unprecedented flooding and to check MB 511 for the latest road updates. Thank you.
Merci, Ahmed. Question, Stephen? Nick?
I have a question for Ahmed, if you can mind coming back to the podium.
Yes.
How long do you anticipate that portion of Route 2 to be down to one lane? And I was wondering if you could clarify why it is down to one lane. Is it because the water's still high, or is there damage on that side of the road?
So, I think we're very happy to see the road open today to a condition. It had an impact and we're closed for almost a week, I think. This coming. So the impact of the debris and the water rising were assessed, I think, yesterday, and they're determined that it might be follow-up work as the water recedes further. And MRDC will be the proper MRDC and their technical experts will be able to assess what is going on, what any other further repairs that might need to be done there to fully open it. So one concern is that the water hasn't fully receded yet, and they're waiting for that. So perhaps also follow-up conversation with MRDC might be able to guide you to what they have to say on it.
Okay. And do you have an updated number about how many roads are still shut down with the blockade in front of them?
So as of this morning, we had 157 roads impacted, including assets, and we're close to about 100 open right now. So that's the update as of about a couple of hours ago.
Do we have an estimate on the total damage caused by this flood yet, ballpark even?
No, we don't right now. I think right now the critical thing is that to make sure the debris is out, the roads, transportation links are open up, and we have all our crews ready to inspect the roads as soon as we can. That's the focus right now.
I have some questions for Ally, please. Could she come back tonight? Do we have people still living in shelters, and if so, how many?
Yeah, we do. We have about 40 in UMB Fredericton as well as 30 in UMB St. John.
Do you have any idea when those people will be able to go home?
No, it all depends on the roads opening as well as if they're able to get back into their homes.
Okay. And how many kids do you have in the province, do you know?
Yeah, we actually have 3,500 right now, and 300 were actually picked up just yesterday alone.
How many?
300 were picked up by residents yesterday alone.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask a question of Greg, please?
Sure.
Hi, Greg. Steve Llewellyn, the leader.
Hi, Steve.
Do you know anything about the military reconnaissance flight, when it's going to happen, and what kind of information you hope to get out of it?
It's not a flight. It's actually boots on the ground. And this was at the request of the province to assist in the assessment and to provide some feedback if a capability gap is identified, what the military could assist with. So it's approximately 60 people at this point in time that'll be fanned out over all the impacted areas. They'll be working very closely, obviously, in collaboration with provincial officials that are conducting inspections, roads, infrastructure. But really, they're subject matter experts when it comes to what military capability could be provided. Again, emphasizing if there are gaps in provincial capability that can't be addressed. And that specific role is all that's been asked of them for now, because we're very much in the assessment phase. You've heard about the road network, and that's being addressed by DTI and partners such as MRDC. And the recovery and the restoration of the road network is predominantly their concern. But as you can appreciate, there's a lot of debris, there's a lot of activity within the communities and around the communities that's going to require a lot of heavy lifting. Now, we have a lot of heavy lifting, but just to make sure we have an abundance of it, the military certainly are there to provide assistance in specific identified requirements as they get identified.
When will they be doing this reconnaissance effort, and when will they report to you what they can help you?
It is underway now, and in fact, yesterday, I had a very good opportunity to sit and discuss this with them in detail, as did other senior officials, just so that the intent was very clear and their mission was clearly understood by them. And they're out and about as we speak, undertaking this collaborative assessment with provincial authorities.
And is there a specific date when they'll report to you what they specifically could help out with?
Well, we have had an ongoing conversation with the military, not just the military, other federal departments as well, throughout the entire event. And that ongoing daily, often several times a day, conversation continues. Now, we have liaison staff already with us, and there's additional people that are there on a continual basis with us. When I say there, I mean in the provincial and the regional centers.
And has the flooding damaged or destroyed any bridges?
Well, that's a good question for DTI,
Oh, okay.
and I would refer to them for their opinion.
A lot of places the water is still high over the road, so we don't know what's going on under. So some of those we don't know yet. I know there's some, I think 2 or 3 culverts that have been impacted by the flood due to washouts. So one of them is Route 144 up in the northwest part of the province. The other ones are what we consider some sort of smaller the culverts that might be easier to replace. But We haven't done the full assessment yet on all the bridges right now, the assets, all the crews right now, or the inspection are out there doing that kind of work to give us a further understanding of how this flood impacted our roadway network, whether it's culverts, bridges, ferries, or highways.
But as of the moment, are you aware of any bridges that have been damaged or destroyed?
As of for damage, they still have to do a thorough inspection of them to determine what the answer is. And as we said yesterday's speech, right now our focus is on the transportation links in isolated communities. So yesterday we were out in Chipman making sure those other bridges were okay. And in the morning was a 12-ton restriction, but when the thorough investigation was done, it was open to full traffic. We know Route 144, we lost a culvert, so that's full destruction. In terms of the other culverts and bridges, that I wouldn't have that specific detailed information for you right now, but perhaps with communications they can ask that to them.
And could I ask a question of Dr. Russell, please?
Sure.
Hi, Dr. Russell, Steve along with the Mayor. Do you have any reports of floodwater-related sickness at the moment?
Have not received any.
That's it, that was
Is
easy.
that one question?
Any more question, Nick? Do you have anything else?
I'm
You're
good. Thank you very much.
Thank
I guess
you.
I have one more question. Are these daily news conferences going to continue over the weekend and into next week?
Not Saturday and Sunday, but we'll reevaluate on Monday and see what we need to do, but
All right.
not Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
It depends on what you need.
All right. Thank you very much for the past 2 weeks and
Okay.
meeting us every day.
Thank you very much for assisting us in getting some very important messaging in. We
Thank you.
appreciate it, and certainly will continue to charge.
Merci beaucoup, thank you.
Thank you.